Hello there, and thank you for tuning in to the most watched business show in the country. This is the Business Weekly Show here on City TV. My name is Michael Obodu. Please hit me up on Twitter at @mobodu. In the next 1 hour, I'll be bringing you a wrap of all the major business news stories for the week. So if you're ready, let's go. Before we get right into it, let me take this opportunity to celebrate all our farmers across the country for their hard work. You are the reason we have something to eat every day, so thank you. As we just celebrated Farmers Day, we will dedicate the first few stories of the day to farmers. And we start off with rice farmers in the northern region. Mechanizing farming is key to maximizing our yields, and these farmers want the government to help them with access to combined harvesters. Well, modernizing farms will definitely inure to the benefits of the country.
Mr. Lansa and his laborers are manually harvesting their 7-acre rice farm using the age-old sickle, and that is scorching Savannah sun. This is a laborious task and comes at a higher cost than using a combined harvester.
The rice, as you can see this, manually it will take you 2 weeks to be able to beat it. And the manual too, because it will take us a long time, we have to go and hire a tractor to come and step on it. And that will take you about 3 good hours. And he will take his share. And the woman will still come back manually. The little that is left, the tractor cannot do. They have to come and clean that up. And then they will thresh it. And that will take them more than 2 weeks before they were able to thresh only this one lying down. The other one too will even take them more than 2 weeks again. And that one is adding your feeding cost to the labor, and that also is taking away some of your turnover.
Mr. Lansa is not alone, as majority of small-scale farmers struggle to access combined harvesters to harvest their crops. Experts say timely harvesting of paddy rice prevents breaking during milling and produces long grains, which is desirable by consumers, while delays in harvesting leads to overdrying of the paddy. Delays in harvesting rice also exposes the crop to pests, including birds, and contributes to post-harvest losses.
Harvesting rice normally leads to, number one, cracking of the grains, and then also yield loss. The cracking reduces quality, while the yield loss reduces farmers' profit. Farmers, however, know how to go about it. That is, they know they should be harvested early, but then they are challenged by harvesting equipment. This is a major challenge, especially in the north here, where the window for harvesting is very short. The harmattan comes in, and then moisture drops very, very fast.
Alhaji Wumben is a seed producer. His rice field has been ready for harvest for nearly a month now, but due to the difficulty in accessing a combined harvester, his crops have become too dry. Though a combined harvester has finally arrived, he's losing a significant amount of paddy on the ground.
Because looking at the harvest he's harvesting, the post-harvest losses, you can see that from the ground that a lot of the rice are on the ground, which if like the driver take his time, he could have harvested everything. But unfortunately, he's speeding. But because we don't own the combine, and getting a combine is very difficult. When you tell him, he gets angry. He can't even take his machine away, and there is nothing you can do. So because of that, you are compelled to go by what he wants. And meanwhile, it is on the loss of our side.
Farmers believe that bringing back the defunct agricultural mechanization centers could address the challenges and boost rice production.
The mechanization issue, you don't know where to go and look for them. Where is your office? Where are you going? That's an information issue. Every district I touch have tell us, oh, with this particular office, you can go there and then get information and you'll be able to go through the mechanization issue. But we don't have enough information on that. So where to go and look for those things is a challenge too.
Another concern for players in the agricultural space for a while now has been access to fertilizer. And from the look of things, if the government doesn't act soon, the next farming season may be negatively affected. Already, look at how expensive food has become lately. You can only imagine how worse it can get if this issue isn't addressed.
The agricultural sector has been plagued with a number of challenges in the past years. Prominent amongst them is the issue of fertilizer. According to the Planting for Food and Jobs Secretariat of the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, Ghana lost a whopping 120 million Ghana cedis to unaccounted for fertilizer, diversion of coupons, and fertilizer smuggling in the 2017 and 2018 planting seasons. Subsequently, there were reported shortages of fertilizer nationwide. The Chamber of Agribusiness Ghana has warned of an imminent increase in food prices in the country due to rising prices of fertilizer worldwide. According to the Chamber, rising prices of fertilizer is causing shortages worldwide and is likely to impact the production of food in the country, especially as Ghana is a net importer of fertilizer. In a statement, the Chamber said prices of cereals and grains are expected to increase significantly from the first quarter of 2022. Another sector of the country's agricultural sector which has gone through major challenges is the poultry industry. The Greater Accra Poultry Farmers Association in July this year warned the industry risked collapse due to a shortage of maize that was needed to prepare feed for the birds. This was followed by an outbreak of bird flu which resulted in the killing of over 10,000 birds. In an interview with City Business News, General Secretary of the General Agricultural Workers Union, Edward Kariwe, said governments must do all it can to avoid a repetition of these challenges.
What it means is that government will have to make the resources available, pay for the fertilizers even before the season. The next thing has to do with, fertilizer smuggling. The ministry indicated that in 2021, so much fertilizer had been smuggled out, and they were attributing it to new ways of smuggling, whereby donkeys were carrying these fertilizers across the borders of our country unaided by human beings, and I think that this is so serious in the sense that we cannot use hard-earned currency to go and buy fertilizer because we don't produce fertilizer in Ghana, import fertilizer with our foreign currency, subsidize it, and then allow it to be smuggled out. That indeed is sabotaging agricultural production and is sabotaging the planting for food and jobs.
On what to do to improve the celebration of Farmers' Day, Edward Kariwe called for transparency in selecting winners.
We have been bedeviled with challenges regarding the selection of the awardees and then also the inappropriate awards that are given to farmers. There are instances where farmers have returned their awards because they believe that those awards were not appropriate and they do not need them. And then there have also been complaints that people who have actually had the awards do not actually deserve that. So the way forward is to make the process of the selection the award winners more transparent than it is today. And then also the awards must also take cognizance of the need of the awardees.
This year's celebration will be climaxed on the 3rd of December 2021 at Cape Coast Central Region. The theme for celebrations is Planting for Food and Jobs, Consolidating Food Systems in Ghana.
Fortunately, the President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, has been speaking to the issue. He says his government is committed to dealing with the fertilizer shortage problem in Ghana. President Akufo-Addo was speaking at the 37th Farmers' Day celebration, which crowned Alhaji Mashood Mohammed as the 2021 National Best Farmer. A big congratulations to him.
The agricultural sector has been plagued with a number of challenges in the past years. Prominent amongst them is the issue of fertilizer. According to the Planting for Food and Jobs Secretariat of the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, Ghana lost a whopping 120 million Ghana cedis to unaccounted for fertilizer, diversion of coupons and fertilizer smuggling in 2017 and 2018 planting seasons. Subsequently, there have been reported shortages of fertilizer nationwide, with many stakeholders warning of an imminent increase in food prices in the country due to rising prices of fertilizer worldwide. At this year's National Farmers' Day event, which was held in Cape Coast under the theme Planting for Food and Jobs, Consolidating Food Systems in Ghana, President Akufo-Addo outlined some plans that the government has begun implementing to provide fertilizers for farmers and also check smuggling of the product.
Nevertheless, for the time being, whilst ensuring the early award of contracts for the supply of fertilizers, government is also collaborating with the ACP group of companies, a Moroccan conglomerate, to map soils in Ghana according to their nutrition and chemical composition. This will enable the use of blended fertilizers specific to soil types, promote efficient use of fertilizers, and increase productivity. To eliminate any possible abuse of fertilizer subsidies, a farmer database has been developed with biometric information, a feature for tracking fertilizer bags, and a subsidy redemption solution.
He further disclosed that a framework has been put in place to offer a 50% interest rate subsidy for agribusinesses to access easier financial support from financial institutions.
Framework has been developed to provide 50% interest rate subsidy for loans advanced to qualified agro-businesses by financial institutions. This will be extended to qualified farmers to expand poultry production operations for hatcheries and processing plants. The target is to support the farmers with affordable financing to produce 5 million broiler birds, equivalent to 10,000 metric tons of meat, by the end of this month of December.
The sector minister, Dr. Owusu-Efiri Yakoto, on his part, advised farmers to focus on using local organic fertilizer as the government finds a more permanent source of fertilizer for them.
In the meantime, we at the ministry are encouraging farmers to turn to organic fertilizers which are available locally. We are also redoubling our efforts in attracting the multi-billion dollars required to invest in a fertilizer manufacturing plant using the surplus gas that we now find in our offshore explorations.
Alhaji Mashood Mohammed from the Northern region, who was crowned the 2021 overall National Best Farmer, went home with 600,000 Ghana cedis from the Agricultural Development Bank and 500,000 Ghana cedis worth of insurance cover from Glyco. Suleimana Yidana from the Northeast region was adjudged the first runner-up, while Reverend Samuel Ziga from the Ahafo region came up as the second runner-up.
Away from the agricultural sector, I'm sure by now you've at least heard of all the back and forth in Parliament concerning the approval of the 2022 budget. At one point it was disapproved, then it's approved, and then there is now a motion to overturn its approval. This is probably one of the most dramatic budget approval process I have ever seen. Anyway, we'll see how it all unfolds. But you know, one of the major highlights of the budget is the new taxes that were introduced. Before they are implemented, what does the business community expect from the government in the coming months? We'll find answers in the Institute of Economic Affairs 2021 Business Confidence Survey.
The Institute of Economic Affairs 2021 Business Confidence Survey, conducted between July and September 2021, sampled 200 businesses in the Greater Accra region, but got responses from 157 of them. That's approximately 78.5% of the total number. The survey sought the views of business executives or owners on business performance, business environment, business constraints, and desired policy interventions. The businesses sampled were largely engaged in retail and wholesale trade and were between the age bracket of 4 and 10-year-old. According to the report, 43% of the businesses reported no change in performance during the last 6 months. Although 39% are expecting a better business performance in the next 6 months, almost 50% do not expect any change in performance in the coming months. The most important constraints facing businesses in the region are high utility charges, high government charges and taxes, and high rate of public corruption. In terms of critical interventions from government to improve the business environment, the IEA survey revealed that majority of the businesses called for a reduction in government taxes and charges, as well as stabilize the macroeconomic environment. High cost of credit, which continues to be a problem for businesses, also came up in the report, with 44% of them asking for a reduction in the cost of credit to survive.
Indeed, businesses need affordable credit. But how far can these banks go to meet such expectations? A former finance minister, Dr. Kwabena Duffuor, says any attempt to force Ghanaian banks to lend at lower rates like some of our neighboring countries will collapse smaller banks. It doesn't end there. He says it could literally bring down the entire banking sector. This sounds scary and confusing. What could be the basis of his argument? Let's find out.
The former finance minister, Dr. Kwabena Duffuor, has asked governments to intervene and check the stubbornly high commercial banks' lending rates, as well as the high cost of borrowing, which continue to pose as a challenge to the business community. Currently, the Bank of Ghana's policy rate, which is the rate at which it lends to commercial banks, is 14.5%, while the lending interest rates for commercial banks in the country is around 22%. Meanwhile, neighboring countries like Burkina Faso, Cote d'Ivoire and Togo have their lending rates at around 5.1%. According to him, the high cost of bank credits in Ghana results from the cost of servicing credits in the Ghanaian banking industry, which has also been influenced by the cost of deposits, cost of loan defaults, cost of overheads, and the cost of liquidity. He has further argued that the larger banks are selling their credits at the same price as the smaller banks, even though their cost of funds are lower than the smaller banks. This, he says, is the reason for the high cost of borrowing. Stakeholders like himself have said that the issue surrounding the high cost of borrowing in the Ghanaian commercial banking industry is a daunting one whose solution requires sober and critical thinking. However, he said any attempt to force banks in Ghana to lend at lower lending rates like our neighboring countries, namely Togo, Burkina Faso and Cote d'Ivoire, will weaken the smaller banks in particular and the entire economy. Delivering a lecture titled The Ghanaian Dream, Transforming the Economy Through the Creation of Jobs and Opportunities for All, Dr. Duffuor called for public intervention to create a level playing field in the entire bank credit market for both the larger and smaller banks.
The central bank's policy rate impacts slightly on the cost of funds. Precisely, the central bank policy rate impacts slightly on the cost of deposit. It is a combination of these costs which determines the cost of funds in a bank, and not the Bank of Ghana's policy rate. The bigger commercial banks in our country have huge demand deposit accounts, of which we at times refer to as transactional accounts, on which they pay virtually no interest. The smaller commercial banks don't have huge demand deposit. They have huge time deposit and savings, on which they pay huge interest. So the larger commercial banks have lower cost of funds, and the smaller commercial banks have higher cost of funds. Now, what's happening is that we have more smaller banks than the larger banks. But because the smaller banks have high cost of funds, and the bigger ones have smaller and lower cost of funds, and the smaller banks dominate the credit market, the bigger banks sell their credit at the higher cost of the smaller banks. In other words, they enjoy lower cost of funds, but sell their credit at a higher, because they are very few. Mr. Chairman, this is an issue confronting all of us. And until we have a very effective public intervention to create a level playing field in the entire bank credit market for both the larger and the smaller banks, will not will not enjoy a lower cost of funds in the country. By creating a level playing field for both the larger and the smaller banks, the cost of funds will go down. Any attempt to force the Ghanaian banks to lend like the neighboring countries around us will destroy the country because it will not be practical.
Let's still stay with the 2022 budget. Government services are expected to go up by at least 15% by next year. That will mean that business permits, operating licenses, and things of that sort will be more expensive. Some businesses aren't too pleased with this and they think things should have been left the way they currently are because they are still dealing with the heavy blow of the COVID-19 pandemic. Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta on Wednesday, November 17, 2021, during the presentation of the 2022 budget announced that effective January next year, the fees and charges for all government services will increase by at least 15%. Per the document, the new charges will be subjected to an annual adjustment by the average inflation rate with the consent of the Finance Minister. The announcement forms part of the new initiatives by the government intended to raise domestic revenue. But the Ghana Hotels Association finds this rather unfortunate. It believes businesses deserve some concession in the midst of battling with the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. President of the association, Dr. Edward Akanyamike, stated that maintaining the status quo would have been preferred.
15% is a lot. It's a lot. And I keep saying that the industry suffered serious financial challenges in 2020 that has led to creation of debts. A lot of the hotels owe from 2020. So a huge debt has been created in the hotels, okay? So anything that continues to increase our cost of operation, it's a no-no. It's a no-no, okay? In fact, we were even hoping that during the pandemic, government would freeze some of those fees and charges for us, but it didn't happen. Okay, so if it didn't happen and by God's grace we've managed to survive it to this stage, we're hoping that it will not be increased at all. We're hoping that it will not be increased. After all, we are still paying. They should rather widen the net for more people to pay. And then we all continue to be in business.
Dr. Nyameke also waded into the electronic transaction levy conversation, and he says even though it is commendable, the rate needs a relook.
With the e-levy, our case is that so long as the funds raised from that levy will be used for what has been mentioned in the budget, we are okay with it. Maybe the percentage could be reduced a bit. But if you look at the budget itself and the introduction to the budget as the minister read it, you realize that the country is in financial crisis. And money is needed to stabilize the economy in a way. So in principle, we are not against the e-levy. However, we think that maybe it can be reduced, and then the money, what we need to do is to ensure that the money, because I know that 16% of that money is supposed to go into road construction. That will help us, and the other aspects that it could go into.
The electronic transaction levy is arguably the most controversial introduction in the 2022 budget. Some have kicked against it, saying it will discourage people from using digital platforms and erode the progress we have made as a country with our cashless agenda. I really came to appreciate how far we have come when I was able to pay 3 Ghana cedis for oranges I bought from a seller by the roadside at East Legon. Well, the Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research, ISER, says the levy isn't necessarily a bad idea, but the rate must be reduced significantly. Electronic transactions in Ghana have in the past years grown significantly, with the total value of transactions for 2020 estimated to be over 500 billion Ghana cedis, which is almost double the figure for the previous year. The government hopes to increase its revenue with the introduction of the e-levy, but many groups have kicked against it, stating it could erode the gains made with the government's cashlight agenda. Speaking at the 2022 budget statement review organized by ISE, Professor Peter Quartey shared his thoughts on the levy.
The e-levy, for instance, is one of the ways to broaden our tax base. You find a lot of artisans earning so much. They sometimes even earn more than those in the formal sector. They earn more than 1,000 cedis, 1,500, 2,000 per month, yet they don't pay any tax. The e-levy is one way of at least getting them to pay something. But then again, the issue is the rate. We don't think it's a bad policy. What we think is the issue is the rate. It's punitive in our view. A levy of 0.5 to 0.75 is recommended, and we have to undertake a tax incidence analysis, and then we start gradually. Once we know what people are willing to pay, with little grudges here and there, grumbling here and there, that should be good for us.
He raised concerns over the scrapping of the road tolls and proposed efficient means of its collection.
With the toll, my proposition is that we say we are now moving to digitalization, right? So let's move into that arena. Let's have e-pass. You find at a toll booth there's an e-pass, there are e-pass lanes, but we don't use them. We still collect the monies. Let's operationalize the e-pass system so that those who use it regularly can pay annually or pay. If you do that, the money goes to government coffers. When you pay, somebody pay annually, pay into a bank or pay into an institution, government gets the money.
Professor Quartey also urged the government to aggressively pursue already existing taxes.
The non-tax revenue measures stated in the 2022 budget we think should be pursued vigorously. The fees and charges, property rates and the rest. We should really find a way of collecting them and making sure that they end up in the government kitty rather than ending up in people's pockets.
Another topical issue, even before the budget presentation, was the benchmark value discount policy. Traders and local producers have been on opposing ends with regards to the policy. Traders believe the policy is good because it reduced the duty they had to pay on some goods, while local manufacturers insist it's making imported goods cheaper, thereby making them uncompetitive. Clearly, the local industry caught government's ear and the policy was reserved. Now, the Trade Advocacy Group Ghana says that it is a misplaced priority. Groups like the Ghana Union of Traders Associations, GUTA, have consistently kicked against the move by the government, arguing that it was the only lifeline for the trading community amid the negative impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. On the other hand, the Association of Ghana Industry, AGI, believes the step is in the right direction as the discount is counterproductive for the local industries. But speaking at a press briefing, General Secretary of the Traders Advocacy Group Ghana, Nana Poku, stressed that they would, however, be compelled to pass on any additional charges brought on by this reversal.
With regards to our questions, the production data from these Ghanaian industries are crucial to the trader to make some basic analysis on availability of stocks, which informs the decision in comparing prices, quality standards, the availability for the volumes needed for our operations, now that 100% benchmark values are restored. We, however, wish to remind government that traders will always be traders and are ever ready to pass on any additional cost or charge to the final consumer, 100%. The action by government warranting the removal of the benchmark values and adding on cost of doing business at Ghana ports will not be a problem that should warrant a strike action or a demonstration to interrupt our businesses' activities. All traders are advised to add on in order to stay in business. Let me repeat this again. All traders are advised to add on in order to stay in business.
TAG further raised concerns with the electronic transaction levy introduced by the government in the 2022 budget. It believes the rate is rather high, a position shared by some organizations like the Institute of Economic Affairs and the Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research, ISE.
Our alternative suggestion to government to reduce the e-levy rate and stagger rates in standard tiers is possible. Government must realize that traders have come to accept the digital payment platform, especially the Momo platforms, for payment of wages, paying suppliers and their vendors. The convenience that the platform brings has even reduced highway robbery amongst the traders. We entreat government to go back to the drawing board and think about the rate again and heed to the advice and calls from Ghanaians, especially traders.
City TV is live on DSTV. Go to channel 363. On GoTV, access City TV on channel 182. On a digital TV, please press the menu button on the remote control and run a new search on your TV. Take note that without an antenna, you cannot access City TV on your television. City TV can be accessed on a free-to-air digital box like the GoTV and StarTimes box. City TV, it's your world.
One game changer is when we are able to deal with unhealthy competition from substandard and inferior imports. The Ghana Standards Authority says local industries will die if they are left to compete unfairly with cheap substandard imports. How do you beat cheaply mass-produced stuff when customers are usually price sensitive?
The award ceremony, which was organized by the Association of Ghana Industries, AGI, in partnership with the Ghana Standards Authority under the theme Repositioning the Local Industry to Leverage AFCFTA, sought to reward outstanding performers from different sectors of the economy. Some of the key themes from the speakers at the event, which was held on November 27, 2021, was the need for the adoption of good standards by local businesses, the protection of local businesses, and the need for more support from government. While delivering his speech, Director General of the Ghana Standards Authority, Professor Alex Dodu, stated that all steps will be taken in collaboration with the relevant stakeholders to enforce standards to ensure substandard imports are not allowed to compete with local products.
As Standards Authority and also working with all the regulators, Food and Drugs Authority, National Petroleum Authority, the first thing to do is to protect our local industries by strict enforcement. If we do not protect our local industries, they compete unfairly, and that will make them die. But our interest and our focus is to remove barriers to your business, to make your business thrive so that you can take over West Africa and lift us all up onto prosperity. And to this end, the Standards Authority has spoken to the National Police. I met Dr. Dampari. We are having training for 200 standards inspectors to check the markets, to be everywhere, so that at the end of the day, if others will compete with you, they should compete on quality. Because substandard goods lower the bar and destroy the markets.
While commending government over the announcement to reverse the benchmark value reduction policy in the 2022 budget and the establishment of the Development Bank Ghana, AGI's outgoing president, Dr. Yawedu Gyamfi, on his part, called for a more strategic plan to support local businesses in the era of the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement.
One of the reasons that we chose this year's theme, repositioning local industry to leverage Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement, is to emphasize the need for a strategic plan to support local businesses, in your businesses, my businesses, and all our businesses. Over the years, the association has expanded government, has engaged government on several interventions to create the enabling environment to support business growth. Challenges such as high cost of electricity, the straight 6% levy, access to credit remain the major barriers of industrialization, which we are still working with the government to get this through. We therefore appreciate the government efforts towards establishment the new development bank to tackle the death of the long financing play that happens to deal with all our industries.
The night saw about 32 major, sector, regional and honorary awards being given out to numerous companies. Some of the winners on the day include Wilma Africa Limited, B5 Plus, Silver Star Auto Limited, Textiles Ghana Limited, M&G Pharmaceuticals and Aqua Safari Resort, among many others.
From the moves by the government in the 2022 budget, it is clear it is trying to raise more revenue. But how else can you do this more efficiently if you are not investing in infrastructure? Tax consultant Dr. Alex Ampabing believes the government must begin prioritizing investing in tax compliance to increase its revenues. He argues that over the years, governments have focused on indirect taxation, which he believes does not yield maximum results. The government has over the years not been able to meet its revenue targets due to several challenges, including its inability to tax majority of the populace. Already, there are reports that this is likely to occur this year. Local media has it that the Commissioner, Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority GRA, Colonel Kweju Damoa, says the authority is trailing in achieving the 2021 revenue target. However, the government, led by the Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, is pushing a digitization drive to rope in especially the informal sector into the active tax-paying bracket. As part of efforts towards achieving this, the electronic transaction levy was introduced in the 2022 budget. Tax consultant Dr. Alex Ampabing says this digitization move is commendable and must be actively pursued.
First thing is that government need to see investment into tax compliance as any other infrastructure. We think of building hospitals and roads. We should also think of building a culture of tax compliance as any other infrastructure that the country needs. This is our fiscal infrastructure, if you like to call it. And we should take it serious, invest into key areas that will generate substantial and sustainable revenue as we go ahead. Over the years, and I'm never going to say this government because every government is guilty, we are used to the indirect form of taxes because one, it brings quick money. Everybody pays, government gets revenue, we're ready to go. While this can solve immediate problem, it is not the sustainable way of generating revenue. So I do believe that the digitization agenda is on the right path. Being able to identify who owns what property, who works where, who is living where, are all going to be key to some of what I describe as our fiscal infrastructure and what will have a positive impact on our fiscal balances or our fiscal sheet. So going forward, I think government needs to aggressively pursue this digitization agenda to be able to identify and bring in the informal sector operators into the formal fold. This definitely is the right way to go.
He further called on the government to consider introducing taxes in the country's e-commerce space, arguing that the government was missing out on the huge volumes of transactions carried out on such platforms.
There's online transactions, and this is where I thought that digitization taxation was going to go. People, you can buy anything online now. People are busily trading online. You can even buy a house, $1 million, $2 million house right here in Accra as we speak. You can buy a car, you can buy a van, you can buy computers, you can buy fridges, everything out there to be bought, you can buy online in Ghana now. The question is, how are we taxing these people? Government need to team up with those online platform owners that before somebody comes to sell, let them register with their valid Ghana card or passport. One, it stops the criminal activities going on there because we know who is selling what and whose account is being operated on either GG or Tonaton or Jumia. Once these operators have valid IDs, you cannot sell without a valid ID. Once items are sold, government can always go to these operators on their platform to see how much did Mr. A sell throughout the year. It's easy for government to say, okay, we are taxing just 2% as part of your revenue. So, in fact, we can sit here and talk about so many revenue opportunities. By the time government step back, assess the economy, and move and think, no, dynamics are changing. Tax handles are coming in all the time. Instead of going for the low-hanging fruit, it is time for us to look for some of the new emerging opportunities, design a creative, sustainable way of taxing that will be fair and equitable to anybody.
The quality of government services have been under question for a long while now. But one of the major reasons for this is the lack of adequate number of personnel. Just think about it. What can you expect from a nurse who is ideally supposed to attend to 20 patients a day, who does over 200 of them? But even though government needs a lot more doctors, teachers, nurses, etc., it cannot be because of some conditionalities from the International Monetary Fund, IMF. This is why civil society organization ActionAid is calling on the government to renegotiate all IMF conditionalities and the suspension of the payment of interest on its loans. ActionAid argues that the Finance Ministry must renegotiate the terms of the International Monetary Fund IMF in the country to be able to meet the increasing need for the critical workforce required in the public sector, especially in education and health. The absence of critical workforce is severely affecting the delivery of quality public services. As part of the IMF-sponsored fiscal consolidation program launched in 2015, the government accepted the key program conditionality of public sector wage rationalization policy to contain and reduce the wage bill. This included the government implementing a hiring freeze across most government agencies and the cap on nominal wage increases. Speaking to the media on the sidelines of a report launched by ActionAid titled The Public versus Austerity, Margaret Brew-Ward, acting head of programs for the CSO in Ghana, stressed the relevance of their call.
Governments spend more on interest payments and debt servicing than invest in education and health. And when it comes to education and health, these are key public services that are needed by women and persons living to bring about transformation in their lives. Provision of education, for instance, provision of child care centers will relieve women of the burden of child care work, and will have enough time to engage in economic activity.
Associate Professor of Economics at the University of Ghana, Professor Eric Oseasibi, further emphasized that the government must find ways to improve upon its revenues to address the challenge.
How do we fiscally consolidate? It will mean that government has to, over time, reduce the fiscal deficits, and how that government reduce the fiscal deficit will mean that government has to, find smarter way of increasing tax revenue, right? Because the revenue yield has to increase, has to widen the tax base, has to ensure that a lot more of our people pay tax. I often said that we need to expand tax nets into the informal sector. The reason being that the informal sector forms about 80 to 85% of our economic activity, and many of them do not pay tax.
Madame Ward-Brew stressed that government must take stringent measures to address the growing concern.
We are saying that it is time to end austerity measures. In this COVID era, we encourage our Minister of Finance and all African Ministers of Finance to come together and renegotiate the terms of IMF conditionalities. In the short term, suspend interest payments. In the medium to long term, reschedule all these interest payments and debt servicing so that they will get the needed resources to engage more public sector workers, invest more in public services to provide the quality public services needed in this country and other African countries.
Digital platforms have changed how we do things and live our lives. They have made things a lot easier while creating jobs for others too. Now, people can earn a living from being ride-hailing app drivers or riders, among others. But then, there is a concern of such employees working under unsafe conditions and not earning even up to a minimum wage. The Fair Work Ghana project is therefore calling for stronger protection and labor standards for workers in the Ghanaian platform economy.
In recent decades, the digital revolution has had a transformative effect on our world, disrupting markets, industries, behavior and livelihoods. One major development has been the emergence of labor-broken digital platforms, which have set in motion a dramatic transformation in the world of work, where an ever greater share of labor processes are being intermediated by such platforms. In Ghana, the platform economy has grown rapidly over the years, with companies like Uber, Bolt and BlackRide in the ride-hailing space, and Jumia Food and Glovo in the delivery subsector. Such digital labor platforms are often heralded as offering a solution to the country's persistent youth unemployment challenge, and indeed, an estimated 60,000 to 100,000 Ghanaians rely on the platform economy for their livelihoods. However, according to a research titled Fair Work Ghana Ratings 2021, Labor Standards in the Platform Economy, this rapid growth, coupled with the virtual nature of such platforms, has also raised questions about the quality of work that these platforms provide, as most workers face multiple challenges ranging from poor remuneration to violence at work. Professor Thomas Enin Dawson is the country manager for the Fair Work Ghana project, and he is calling for stronger protection and more robust labor standards in the Ghanaian platform economy.
What we seek to do is to measure the level of working conditions in the platform economy, so how workers are treated by platforms, and that's basically about our research. So we use our fair work principles, which are the 5 principles that I spoke about: fair pay, fair conditions, fair contract, fair management, and fair representation. By that, what we're able to do is that we're able to highlight the things that we think are not right based on the evidence that we're able to gather in the platform economy. And the interesting thing about this Fair Work project is that we do not just highlight, we work with all stakeholders. So we are willing to work with regulators to be able to revise Ghana's laws, because our current labor law, of course, like the MP said, does not look at the gig economy and the fourth industrial revolution.
Dean of the University of Ghana Business School, Professor Justice Bawole, said it is crucial for policy workers to pay particular attention to digital platform businesses and general working conditions across various sectors of the economy.
We hope that this can be extended to other areas. I am particularly worried about the hospitality industry and the kind of conditions. In fact, I am actually worried about the media and the kind of conditions and that a lot of you work under. I am particularly worried about people who work within the oil sector, especially the oil marketing companies at the filling stations. I am particularly worried about private school and private school workers. These are areas where it looks to me that our Ministry of Labor and Employment Relations hasn't paid critical attention to. And because of that, you would typically not say there's a lot of exploitation, but you would find some remnants of exploitation.
In addition to the effective regulation of the sector, the chairman of the National Alliance of Digital Drivers Union Ghana, Bismarck Fifi Tete, notes that poor remuneration and security issues also need to be addressed.
What needs to be done is that the fare, especially the service charge, need to be reduced. You understand? I don't think any ride-hailing company should be charging more than 15%. Okay? So that the drivers can take something home, so that everybody will be happy. You know, the driver, when he is signing up on the platform, the driver goes with his driver's license. And this driver's license, the DVLA has every detail of the driver's license. But it is not the same with the rider. The ride-hailing companies should try as much as possible to take more details of the riders.
Let's now move to the just-ended voter fair. There was a lot of talk and media buzz about the event, and it appears a lot of businesses at the fair cashed in and have described it as hugely successful. They also believe a lot more can be done to make it even better in subsequent ones. I think it would be nice to replicate it in all the regions to drive traffic there and boost local businesses.
The 5th edition of the Volta Trade and Investment Fair ended in Ho on Sunday night. As typical of its events of this nature, there were a lot of people at the fairgrounds on the last day to make last-minute purchases. The fair, which commenced on the 15th November and ended on 28 November 2021 at the Ho Sports Stadium, attracted over 8,000 patrons from Ghana and neighboring West African countries. The 2-week fair served as a platform for large, medium and small-scale foreign and indigenous businesses to showcase their products and services. However, some of the exhibitors who spoke to City Business News after the fair say, even though the organization was near perfect, the timing of the program was not the best. Some exhibitors and patrons have been speaking to City Business News.
The fair has been very wonderful, very good. Things like this not normally happen in home, so we like it, we enjoy it.
How has business been?
Business has not been bad. It is better than normal shop business and at-home business.
My name is Vivian Adoba, and this is my company. The name of my company is Just Life Plus, JLP. This fair, anyway, this is the first time that I've come to fair, but I like it. It's nice, but it's only that they didn't receive their salary. That is why the buying is slow.
Thank you. Market is good. People are coming, and we have met a lot of investors. We've made interruptions, we've changed contacts, and so far so good.
The MCE for the Ho municipality, Boston Divine, said the organizers of the fair will consider the timing of future fairs to enable more patronage.
It is true. A lot of government workers will begin drawing their salary from tomorrow. So some are even asking us to at least extend the days till maybe next weekend. Yes, it is something we must consider in the next fair. It is up to the planners, the committee members, to see if the extension will be prudent. But as you can see, a lot of people has also begun packing their goods, meaning they are okay. So it depends on who is complaining. But yes, we'll consider this in the next fair seriously and consider the paydays.
On his part, the chairman of the Association of Ghana Industry for the Volta, Eastern and Oti regions, Delaga Jangu, stated that the fair has been a success and added that efforts have been put in place to make subsequent editions more successful.
Some have even urged us or requested that the fair should last for about a month going into the Christmas period. We've taken all this into consideration, and we'll be meeting at the review planning committee to review the fair. We've also conducted some surveys at the end of the fair amongst exhibitors. We'll factor everything and ensure, because ultimately we want the businesses to grow. We want people to be able to widen their reach in terms of their products and services. So they are the ones we are doing the fair for. If majority of them are telling us that this is the direction it should go, we will. I mean, it is not for the planning committee to decide. The fair is for the exhibitors, is for the people. We will listen to the people and we'll factor some of these things into consideration in subsequent fairs.
Now to our final story of the show. President Akufo-Addo is calling on investors from Norway to take advantage of the investment-friendly climate in Ghana to grow their businesses. According to him, government will not relent in its efforts to grow the economy at a faster rate to ensure a win-win environment for both the public and private sectors.
Ghana has enjoyed diplomatic relations with Norway dating back to the 1970s, but formally opened its embassy in the country in November of 2018. Economic and commercial cooperation takes center stage in the bilateral relations of the two countries. The development cooperation is concentrated on areas of common interest and expertise, in particular in the petroleum, marine, and maritime sectors. Norway's main development cooperation program with Ghana is the Oil for Development Capacity Building Program, which aims aims at supporting sustainable resource, environmental, and financial management of Ghana's petroleum sector. Records from the Ghana Investment Promotion Center indicates that a total of 29 projects, which are in various sectors of the economy, such as building and construction and oil and gas from Norway, with a foreign direct investment value of $175 million, have already been registered this year. Speaking at the Ghana-Norway Business and Investment Forum in Accra, President Akufo-Addo noted that his government will take the needed steps to protect the conducive investment environment for businesses from Norway and beyond.
Ghana in recent times has seen a significant rise in interest from Norwegian investors. According to records from the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, there has been in recent times a total of 29 projects with an FDI value of $175 million registered from Norway. These investments are in several sectors of the economy, including agriculture, building and construction, general trading, manufacturing, oil and gas, and tourism, and we expect this to rise. The figures I have presented are without prejudice to the anticipated and soon to be realized investments ACRE is about to make in the energy sector of our economy. So I would urge even further the business community in Norway to take advantage of the business-friendly climate in the country to invest in Ghana.
President Akufo-Addo particularly urged investors from Norway to consider partnering government to develop a modern railway network in the country. The president stated that his government is embarking on an aggressive program to attract the needed investment to develop the railway and road infrastructure needed in Ghana.
Government is also embarking on an aggressive public-private partnership program to attract investment in the development of both our road and railway infrastructure. We're hopeful that with solid private sector participation, we can develop a modern railway network with strong production center linkages and with the potential to connect us to our neighbors. Members of the Norwegian business community, you can choose to invest in Ghana through the Ghana Investment Promotion Center or set up as a free zones enterprise. Regardless of where the investment is, government has instituted a number of fiscal incentives for the investor, depending on the nature of the activity or the location of the investment. Ladies and gentlemen, I want us together to build a stronger Ghana-Norway investment relationship to the benefit of our respective shareholders.
This is where we draw down the curtains on this week's edition of the Business Weekly Show here on City TV. Please don't miss out on the Business Dashboard. It airs at 10 p.m. sharp every weekday, with a repeat the following day at 7 and 10:30 a.m. Our website, citybusinessnews.com, has regular business news update for you. My name is Michael Obodu. Please hit me up on Twitter. And with my friends over here, we say catch you same time next week. Stay safe, stay informed, and bye-bye.